Okay, let's go live a little bit early. Let's see if I get my notification from YouTube. If you can hear me, let me know you can hear me. Usually it's, there we go, now live. I can put that aside. I don't know how many people we're going to have on tonight because I ran this one yesterday on Discord. I think it was about 2.5 hours. Lots of good questions, lots of good content. So we'll see how many people show up for this. But the theme of this one is really about AI and its effect on your process as you go through the exams, and what effect it's going to actually have on the industry itself. Let me grab my notes from yesterday because I did have some research to cite on this one here. So we'll give it a few minutes for some people to show up. In the meantime, let's look at the kind of questions we have. Hi, Mike. Well, close enough. In Belgium, operating a business, very difficult to take work from staff. Paid leaves, medical leaves, wiped out all margins. Was always like this. That looks like a question. I don't know. How can AI replace this? Well, AI is I mean, it can be two things, right? It can be a replacement for an individual or individuals who perform at certain lower cognitive levels. And that's not saying anything about their cognitive limitation. That's just saying that the job they have involves tasks that really don't require metacognitive skills. Or you can use AI as an augmentation tool to help your staff be more productive. Other than that, I don't really know the employment laws in Europe, so I can't really say too much about what you can and cannot do. Thoughts on the market reaction today? I don't think it was surprising enough in any one direction for me to have an opinion on it. It feels like a tired rally, right? Let's see. My mic is making sounds. It shouldn't be making any sounds. I have nothing else going on. Mic is staticky. My mic is staticky. I have a dedicated line here. It shouldn't be staticky. Let me move it off of this platform. Let's see what happens if I move it onto the desk itself. How's that? How's the microphone now? Clipping and staticky. Let me close some windows then. Maybe that might be an issue here. If I just let me close this one here. This is probably the one that causes the most grief. Anything else open? I will close a few more windows here. The ones that are using, it tells me how much the window is using, so I can close certain ones. Maybe it is that. Let's close that. Let's close that. Let's close that. I don't need this one or this one, and let's close that. And let's see where we go from there. Okay, I've closed everything as much as I possibly can. All right, where do we leave off here before I jump right into what we're going to talk about? We'll answer a few more questions first. Doing my level 1 in November, do you think AI will make it harder to find an entry-level role? Yes, that is one of the conclusions I'll get to. Well, I shouldn't say yes. Yes and no. Yes and no. Or do you think it will be an enabler for entrance? Let's sort of just start briefly here. One of the more important things to occur in this space, I think, was Apple's paper last week, which sort of highlighted the limits of thinking models, these reasoning models. If you haven't read the paper, it makes the experiment it ran, the test it ran, was one that a human being would have solved very easily and would have figured out how to solve almost any iteration of it. But the reasoning model couldn't, because it doesn't reflect upon itself, because it is really just lines of code. So I want you to think about this for a minute. Let's say I drew a square on the screen, and it has, one side. I say n equals 1. I say, how many squares do you see? You could say, well, I see one square. But if I cut the square in 4 so that you had a square and it was a 2 by 2, I would say, how many squares do you see? Now, n equals 2. You would say 5. There are 4 1 by 1 squares and 1 2 by 2 square. If I did it in 3s, brought it to n equals 3, I'd say, how many squares do you see? You'd say, well, I see 9 1 by 1 squares. I see 4 2 by 2 squares and 1 3 by 3. If I did it in 4, you would say, well, hang on a second here. Clearly, this is a mathematical progression. There must be a way to solve this, because now you can reflect upon what you've done. And you would realize that it is the sum of I equals 1 to n of I squared. So if I said, here's a 27 by 27, you'd say, well, that's easy to do. It's 27 squared plus 26 squared plus 25 squared plus 24 squared. And you can write a piece of software that's very deterministic, that'll always get it right. In other words, you could generalize. You could go from the specific to the general. There were 4 different tests. One of them was Tower of Hanoi. Every first-year math student in abstract math has seen the Tower of Hanoi. Every computer science student in their first year has seen the Tower of Hanoi. As soon as you get to recursion, it's the first or second problem you'll solve this one, because it's a recursive. It's just a recursion. It's just a recursive problem. So they had these 4 different algorithms that they gave to these reasoning models at very low n equals 1, n equals 2, n equals 3. The LLM and the LRM, the language model and the reasoning model, could solve them both almost with 100% accuracy. As you started to increase the complexity, the learning model dropped off, but the reasoning model continued on, and at some level of complexity, they both dropped to 0. At no stage did the reasoning model generalize. At no stage did it say, okay, we're at n equals 6. I've seen this 5 times. I think there's something more in here. Every n was a brute force algorithm solution, all from first principles all over again. So it couldn't generalize. The conclusion from that is that it lacks metacognitive skills. We as humans have the ability to reflect on what we've done, and we can then deduce or induce from situations. We can go from the general rule to a specific situation. We can go from some specific situations, we can generalize up and become very efficient. The reasoning model should have been able to say, I see the pattern here, and since it can write code, it should have automatically written a program that says, give me your best. I got this. It lacks the awareness to self-reflect and build tools to solve future problems. That's a big deal. That's a really big deal, because the metacognitive skills are where humans are almost indispensable. This is, if you think about it in terms of the analytical skills or the cognitive skill you need, then we're talking about analysis, evaluation, creation. The non-metacognitive skills, recall, understanding, application, the reasoning models are killer at those levels. So if your job involves knowing the facts and understanding the facts and applying the facts, and that's it, AI will kill you. AI will destroy your job if that's all you do. But that's really not most jobs. Most jobs have some requirement that you must apply some non-metacognitive skills. There's always administrative work to do in every job, but that the majority of your job is in analysis and evaluation. So, for example, as an asset manager, you have to evaluate, you have to analyze the situation and evaluate options. How am I going to organize my portfolio based on what I'm seeing? You're a fixed income manager. Your benchmark has a duration. Let's say it's a long duration. Your benchmark has a duration of 15. How are you going to structure your portfolio to beat your benchmark given your view of where the long end of the curve is going to go? That takes a reasoning model can't really solve that. That takes a human. But you got to go look for stuff. You got to go look for information. You got to go look for that. You got to put it in a certain order. You've got to take a whole bunch of information from different places that may take you hours to put together. That's where the AI will augment what you do. So in every job, there's some tasks you do that don't require metacognitive knowledge or metacognitive skills. There's where AI augments. But let's say that you're a level 1 CFA tutor. I would say you've got about 12 to 14 months of good income left before it's gone. Because to be a level 1 tutor, what do you have? For the most part, you have you know the facts and you understand the facts and you can apply the facts so that you can teach it. You don't need to analyze, you don't need to evaluate, you just need to do that part. Tutors are getting very, very good. The AI tutors are getting very good. A lot of these standardized tests, LSAT, MCAT, GMATs, GREs, SATs, where they're testing not so much your knowledge of a particular domain, but your aptitude. In 12 months, that industry is dead. If that's so, there are some jobs will be completely eliminated because they only use non-metacognitive skills. Other than that, no. For level 3, for example, level 3 operates at the level of metacognitive knowledge. The LLMs today and the LRMs today in their current form, with the current architecture that they have, will not be able to replace a tutor at level 3 because they can't think in using metacognitive skills. Now, there's a debate on that, right? On one side, you've got a Nobel Prize winner and a Turing Prize winner saying, one from IBM, one from Meta, saying, no, that the models in their current architecture, the transformer, is about as far as it's going to go. From here on in, you've had that big move up. From here on in, they're going to level off. That no matter how large the parameters get, they're not going to be able to solve the Apple problem of generalizing from the specific to the general. The interesting thing about the Apple paper is what they did in the second round of tests is they actually gave the reasoning model the algorithm to solve the problem. They said n equals 1, n equals 2, n equals 3. Now I'm giving you the algorithm. N equals 4, n equals 5. They still failed to generalize. Even though they were given the algorithm to solve the problem, they still failed to say, okay, well, here's a solution, and I'm going to write a piece of software for it, and now you can ask me whatever you want. Every n was first principles all over again. That's a big deal. That's a bigger statement than what people are making it out to be. Apple was not saying this is the end of AI. Not one bit. So you do have a bunch of people looking at this paper saying, oh, it's the end of AI. No, it's not. And then you have a bunch of people that are brushing this off saying, well, this is nothing. No, it's not. Not having the ability to generalize tells us very clearly that beyond the level of application, if we're talking about cognitive skills, beyond that cognitive skill, there's nothing. There's just air. That's where we need to live. What this will do, I think, is it's going to add a premium to expertise, not water down expertise, but it's going to separate those who operate at lower cognitive skills versus those that operate at higher cognitive skills. It's going to separate them quite a bit so that the pay differential, I think, will increase. So the ROI for the designation, I think, will increase. You're not going to get past level 3 without these metacognitive skills. If you can't analyze and evaluate, level 3 is going to be brutal because it's all analysis and evaluation. Here's a situation. Here's a context. You're a fixed income manager. Here's your benchmark. What are you going to do? You have 3 options. And if you don't know what to do, all 3 options sound reasonable. You got 3 options. You got to figure out, well, what the hell is going on? Now that I know what's going on, how do I want to be positioned? Now that I know how I want to be positioned, I got these 3 options. Which one's going to give me the best outcome of these 3 options? Which one has the weight on the curve in the place where I need it? The reasoning models break down when you give it those problems. To test the reasoning models, it's really simple. Take a bunch of end of chapter questions from level 1 and see if the reasoning model can solve it. It pretty much can. 90%, 85, 90%. Do it at level 2. It drops to about 70%, 65, 70%, because the vignette is a bit more complex and there's a lot more distractors. So it gets confused sometimes. Give it a level 3 structured response question, nothing. It fails it almost every single time. It gets some little sparks of correctness here and there, but overall it does dismal. At level 1, if you prompt the reasoning model enough, you got to build your prompt. If you understand assessment and you know how to write a multiple choice question, you can prompt the LRM to write you a multiple choice question. That is pretty good. Not so much at level 2, and doesn't work at level 3. I got a prompt that's almost 2 pages long for structured response, and it's still not there because it doesn't quite get it. It can't make the jump from I understand and I can apply to the next level to build a situation which requires analysis. It builds situations which require understanding and application. But that's not good enough. That's testing at a level 1 level. I needed to test at level 3. I needed to design a context, which is your question, and design a question such that it's not just, oh, I understand and I can apply. It's like, I understand, I can apply, but I got to figure out what the hell is going on first. I have to analyze first. Now I have only 3 options, so I got to evaluate which one is the best one, because they'll all work, but which one is the best one given the analysis? You get your analysis wrong, you're going to choose wrong. It can't do that. It can't write questions because it cannot analyze, so it cannot create a context which requires you to analyze. And I think that is a limitation. I've been working with this for the last 6-7 weeks, trying to get it to see how much of me this can replace. It can replace quite a bit. Or said another way, it can free up a lot of what I do at the lower cognitive levels to allow me to do more at the metacognitive level. So I can think of it as replacing me in certain areas, or I can think of it as getting rid of stuff I never really enjoyed doing anyways, and it allows me free to do more. So there is going to be, I think, a premium to expertise. Now, here's the thing. You're going through level 1, and you're going to say to yourself, but the reasoning models can do all of this stuff. It can solve all the end of chapter questions. I gave it a whole mock exam, and it scored 95%. Yeah, probably. And you might start feeling this is going to replace me. You cannot get to the metacognitive, to a level of metacognitive knowledge in a domain unless you have declarative knowledge, unless you have conceptual knowledge, and unless you have procedural knowledge. You know the facts, you understand the facts, you can apply the facts. So you have to go through it. You must build expertise. But at all times, your goal now is, I need to pass the test. I need to pass the test. Your goal now is, I need to develop metacognitive skills as early as I possibly can. And I think that's what will distinguish test prep going forward, is the good providers are going to migrate up and present you with situations that require you to analyze and evaluate, even though it's not needed at level 1. You may as well start writing question banks at that higher level. Not easy to do. The LLMs can't do it. They can't write at the level of analysis and evaluation because they don't analyze or evaluate. So as I said before, they can't write a question which requires you to do the same thing. They only understand procedural knowledge, which is application, conceptual knowledge, which is understanding, and declarative knowledge. Now, if you want them a bunch of flashcards, they're killer, because flashcards are just a bunch of know what. It's just, what is this inventory model? What is this? What is that? It's just a lot of know what. It's a killer at that. There's already a couple of, I don't think a couple, there's quite a few AI-driven level 1 Q banks out there. Here's the big problem. They're about 90% right. And they don't, once you get past declarative knowledge, at declarative knowledge, you're almost 100% right, because it's just a bunch of facts. Know this, know that. At conceptual knowledge, you're about 90% right. Once you get to application, there are some nuances. The same prompt for quant is not going to work very well for derivatives. It's also not going to work very well for some of the models in economics. So you do have to change your prompt a lot. They're about 70% right. That's the danger with these AI-driven platforms, is for level 1, you get a sense that, well, they really know a lot. But if you don't know it, how are you going to recognize that what they're saying is right? So it does still need to be evaluated by an expert who looks at the output and says, okay, this is good, it's ready for the market. If you outsource your level 1 to an AI-driven system, I think you'll be okay. It's going to be about 90% right. But I've met people in the industry who are average, who know about 70% of what they're talking about. So a lot of times your prep provider isn't even 90% right? Depending on who you're using. I mean, we've hired some people sometimes that were like only 50% right. It was actually quite bad. So to say that they're 90% right, I would say that's better than the average human. So that's still pretty good. But still, when you're learning, you're hoping that you can get 90%, but you're hoping that you're learning from a source that's 100% right. That means no mistakes. You can't always say that with the CFAI material these days. It's got a bunch of mistakes in it. The CFAI question bank's got mistakes in it. In fact, almost all question banks have mistakes in it. So, to invoke what Elon Musk says about self-driving cars, yeah, they kill people, but they kill people at a rate far, far lower than what humans kill people at. Yes, the LLMs at level 1 are only about 70 to 90% right, but on average, that's better than most humans. At level 3, that's not going to work. I guarantee you that's not going to work. Give me any output from a reasoning model for level 3. And not just one thing. Ask it 20 questions and give me the answers to those 20 questions. I can guarantee you easily 30 to 40% of it will be misleading or just right out wrong. Easily. So again, the higher that you can get yourself, the better it is. How do you get these metacognitive skills? You should have built them up in university. There's a reason why you do case studies, is because it does require you to analyze the situation. And then it's like recommend a course of action. Well, there's evaluation. If your goal in university was to just get by, I just want to do the minimum amount I can do. I just need to get by. I mean, all I need is the piece of paper. That's all I need. That probably was a good signaling device in the past. I say the past ago. It's not going to be a signaling device going forward, because if you get out of university with no metacognitive skills, the AI will kill you. The AI will beat you easily. So it actually raises the bar for your learning, is that if you're just going to get through, get through the basics, don't bother. Don't even show up. Table stakes now in every white collar job is going to be metacognitive skills, analysis, evaluation, creation. It's going to be that, because that's where these things don't live. Just to give you an idea of how this is progressing, this is from Indeed. If you search for investment analysts and CFA, about 10% of the listings are returned with CFA either required or preferred. The higher you go, the more senior the level, the more the CFA is a baseline qualification. In other words, it's a requirement, period. Also overlapping those are Python, machine learning, data science, and AI skills. In as many, for investment analysts, in as many job postings as you find CFA, you find AI skills. So that entry-level jobs will more than likely go to those that have both. You can't show up saying, I've got my level 2 behind me. You got to show up saying, I have my level 2 behind me. I'm well versed in Python, and I have broad AI skills across 5 or 6 different models. I have my library of prompts, and you have maybe a document that has all of your library of prompts that you've developed over time. You can speak the language of machine learning and data science. You don't have to be a data scientist. They have their own data scientists, but you should at least speak the language. And you speak the language of machine learning. You understand it, but you pretty much got to come. I think AI skills are, at this point in time, for white collar jobs, I think that's a minimum, as Indeed calls it, table stakes. That's what you have to ante up. Investment banking. Mentions of CFA and AI, both very low. So it hasn't really creeped into there yet. Risk management, you get to mid. That CFA shows up a medium amount of times, and AI medium to high. It's when you get into asset management and wealth management, the CFA high. And AI skills, the ones I listed, Python, machine learning, data science, and just general work with the models, any AI skills that you have. You know how to use a specific model. You know when to use a reasoning model, when to use a language model, how to query these models. That is medium to high. So if you are going into asset management, the CFA is at higher levels, is a requirement. It's table stakes. And these days, machine learning, data science, Python, AI skills are table stakes. So that's how you set yourself apart for entry level. I don't think it's going to get rid of all entry level jobs. It is going to get rid of entry level tasks. And if there is a job, an entry level job that is nothing but the entry level tasks, organizations are not stupid. They're not going to just get rid of all of those positions, because you're not going to progress unless you at least start there. But you should at least start there knowing how to use the AI tools to do most of what you do. So instead of doing X amount of work a day, you're doing 3X or 4X amount of work a day, because you understand the domain knowledge, you can apply the domain knowledge, and you can use the AI tools to ramp up your productivity and put out 3 to 4 times more than somebody who doesn't have it. Yeah, so there we are. Let's answer some questions here. Do you think the future is bleak for equity research analysts? No, I don't. Where I think the future is bleak is for financial modelers. Usually, an analyst analyzes the company and determines how they're going to model out revenue going forward, and makes notes. Okay, this is how revenue will be modeled going forward. What's the relationship between our revenues and our cost of goods sold? What segments do we have? What's the evolution in cost of goods sold? Do we have decreasing costs, increasing costs? What type of industry are we in? Are we growing? Are we sure? You're going to do all of that analysis, of which the models cannot do yet. I have tried. It cannot do that. It can evaluate. I shouldn't say it can evaluate. It can be a second check on what you think. So you can actually give all your assumptions to a model along with all of the financial statements, and you can ask it to evaluate your thinking in terms of give me feedback, tell me where my strengths and weaknesses are. It's but every now and then it comes up with a point or two. That's the nice thing about it. Now, once you've done all your assumptions, you give it to the financial modeler. Why? Because it's a task that you don't need to do. It's a low-level, low value-added task. The high value-added task was how do I model revenues? The low value-added task is actually putting it in the spreadsheet and putting the formula in and dragging the cell across, saying, there, what's next? That will be replaced. That I firmly believe will be replaced, that there will be a point where you can give all your assumptions to a reasoning model, and the reasoning model will be able to interact with either Google Sheets or Excel and do it for you. So I think that skill is at risk, but not the analysis skill, because it's got the keyword in there, financial analyst, not financial rememberer or financial understander or financial applier, financial analyst, right? So it's more important now than ever that you get the skills that these guys can't. Let's see. The theme of AI is across the whole profession, not just CA. Well, AI is the models that we see now. We say AI. It is a subset of artificial intelligence. There's more to it than this, right? These are based on language models and reasoning models based on the same architecture. That in itself is a general purpose technology that cuts across all industries. So you could say the same thing for any white collar job, to the extent that it requires some metacognitive skills, and to the extent that you have those metacognitive skills. Not everybody does. I would say the carrying capacity in a population for that is about 40%. About 60% of people in a population probably have no ability to develop metacognitive skills, because it does require some biological component. It does require that you have a brain that functions that way. You do if you do. If you're reading your textbook or anything, and as you're reading, you're making connections, going, okay, well, this connects to this, and you can connect it to some other things in your mind that you've read somewhere else or that somewhere else. You're saying, okay, well, I can see how this can solve problems without specifically being told how it can. Some people can't. You can read something and say, well, based on what I've read, it means this for over here. Somebody else may say, how do you get that? And you have to sort of explain it to them. And then some other people, even with the explanation, it doesn't work. You got to simplify everything and get the red crayons out to draw the picture for them, right? Not everyone is capable of metacognitive thinking, and that can develop metacognitive skills. So if what I just described sounds like you say, well, that's what I do, my mind does that, then you need to operate at that level. I'm a clinical pharmacist and we are trained medicine experts, yet many colleagues are worried about AI as it will augment my skills. It will make you better at what you do. And let's say that you have some conclusion that you reach. You can always use this to test your blind spots, saying, I think this is the case over here. And you can tell the model to specifically take the other side of the argument. So it is a nice check on what you do. but I don't know enough about the job that you do to be able to say, it's these tasks, not these. Okay, we have still some people saying about my mic. Still there. Let me try something here. And let's try that again. Well, we'll see. I don't know what it could be. I'm on fiber. I got a 3 gig line. I've shut down almost all of my windows. So I think I'm just going to keep pushing on, and then I'll figure it out later. TLT selling off again. What gives? Let's pass on the market talk. Let's try to keep it to our conversation today. Sounds like a check. Hang on. It shouldn't be. I did a couple of videos today, and I reviewed the sound. Sound was okay on the videos. Where's Adam to fix? Adam's on Discord. Still static. Definitely sounds like it could be a jack issue. Well, the mic is still static. I'm just going to keep going. Might be physical distance to the mic compared to the gain in volume. I don't know. I got it. Usually it's if you put your hand out like this and you put your finger on the mic and your thumb on the chin, that's about as far away as you should be. That's kind of where I am. I have CFA level 1, been working 2 years on the buy side, mostly fixed income, and want to start investing in the stock market. How should I start? I don't know enough about you I don't know how much money you have, and I don't know what your level of knowledge is to be able to advise that, but I'd say probably I would start at the level of the broad market ETF. And as you gain more skill, you can then say, well, maybe I'll move into, overweight a sector by buying some of the sector ETF on top of the market ETF. And then once you know a little more, you might say, well, I'll buy some of the company names on top of the sector ETF, on top of the market ETF, and you can expand out that way. I'm going to scroll to the bottom. Tell me if it's still staticky. I'm seeing almost every second comment is static, it's static, it's static. Tell me if it's still staticky. And I see that we have an asshole in here, so let me just get rid of that person altogether. There we go. Static, yes, it's static. Well, I don't know what to do here. I'm just going to push on, and we didn't have this issue on Discord yesterday, so I don't know what it could be here today. But if it is an issue with the YouTube interface, then from now on, my lives will be just on Discord. Let's see where we left off. I'll do the best I can here. If we have deflation due to massive layoffs, what would happen to banking and credit-based system? Will governments have to print to prevent deflation? Well, that wouldn't be a government thing. That would be the central bank that would be concerned about price stability. They're not really too concerned about deflation in particular parts of the market. What they're concerned about is deflation on a general level. This technology is going to be massively disinflationary, if not deflationary, at least in the near term. So I imagine, based on where the Fed funds rate is, they've got plenty of room to run to the zero line, which is probably what they would do first. AI won't replace plumbers, comma, for now. Yeah. Many entry-level roles may be eliminated, but I think some of this effect may be counteracted by younger generations' early adoption of AI and increased productivity quicker. Yeah. Yeah, if you can, well, if you know thing is that you have to become much more productive, which means now that higher level of productivity is just the baseline of where you're going to need to work. So you're going to have to figure out how to use these. You're going to have to learn how to use them. Okay, some people are leaving because the sound. There's nothing I can do about it. I don't know what to do. It worked fine on my videos this morning. It worked fine on Discord. I'm going to ignore the mic comments at this point in time because there's nothing I can do. I work in the field actually presenting that paper later this week. Emailed a while back. If you ever need a hand, I wonder about a thing, feel free to reach out. I feel like AI, possibility to automate work is what most people talk about, but do you see any field where it would help research quickly? Any field where it would help research quickly? Everywhere. What type of research, I guess, is the question that I would ask. Do you mean like basic research in sciences? I believe that's already being done. There's already lots of work being done. Do you mean like, I mean, there are some LLMs right now. Which one do I have here? This is called Elicit. Somebody had sent me the link for that. Elicit. This is purely just academic papers. Every reasoning model now has a deep research feature that you can use as well. So there is no limit on that. It's already going on now. 90 days from now, will they have meaningfully improved some significant way? 90 days, yeah. Almost, I use 6 different models, and once a week, there's an update to one of them somewhere, once a week. Now, sometimes they update. Gemini had 3 updates today for different things. And I read them and I go, well, it's nothing that I need to use right now, but okay, I know it's there. But yeah, these things it's an arms race. These things are adding new features and new capabilities, at least the paid versions. I don't know about the free versions. Please disconnect them. Okay, I'm not reading that anymore. Mic is broken. Let me just hear it myself, because if I can't hear it, I can't fix it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my own channel, and I'm going to join on here on my iPad. On here on my iPad. On here on my iPad. On here. Oh, I hear the static. Yeah, that can be annoying, right? I'm gonna unplug and replug. Let me see what happens here. See, the thing is, if I unplug my mic, well, hang on, let's find